Is cheesecake actually cake, or pie? I'm going to weigh in on this. Linguistically, it is both a cake and a pie. Culinarily, it is also a baked custard. How did this happen? For the same reason that a tomato is technically a fruit, but we use it like a vegetable. Because of how we classify things. A pie is a filling in a shell, and every cheesecake has a shell of some type, sometimes just a crust along the bottom, but still. Add to this the somewhat ambiguous definition of the term, cake. For those that argue that cheesecake is a pie, you don't need to look further than the word we are arguing about to see that it says cake. But what is a cake? A cake is pretty much a mass of whatever you want it to be. Mud on your shoe, caked on there. That chemical lump you wash your hands with? A cake of soap. That baked good that gets frosted and sliced? Also a cake. But not all cakes rise, not all cakes are frosted, and not even all cakes are baked. Not all cakes have flour either, i.e. the flourless chocolate cake. So all arguments about the cheesecake being a pie only are null and void, since the ambiguity of the term allows for such variances. Likewise, all arguments that it isn't a cake fall flat for the exact opposite reasons. The term pie is well defined and the cheesecake ticks all the boxes. But it is still a cheesecake because calling it a cheese pie would be something else entirely, even if technically accurate. What about the idea of a baked custard? Again, we get into this realm of using very specific terms to describe something, and there are bound to be those that defy us. Cheesecake begins its life as a custard of sorts. And then, whether you intend to serve it as a pie or as a cake, you can't ignore this crucial step in the process. It begins life as a custard. Therefore, it is by technical definition all of the above. But certainly not a brownie, cupcake, galette, tart, etc., etc. To add to the confusion and arguments for both sides, if you think cheesecake is X, then what do you call a Boston cream pie? Is it a pie, as the name suggests, or a cake? How about we solve this by eating both? From everything I've read, and I am only going off of what I've read cause I am no chef, but it seems to me like the various forms of cheesecakes fall under different categories. For example, if you go back to its roots in ancient Greece, a cheesecake was a cake because they used either flour or yeast to make it, and it had no crust, so to me, this seems like a cake. New York cheesecake only has crust on the bottom, is significantly taller, and is generally made with flour, so again I would say this falls under the cake category. A fair amount of people say it's a custard, but my question there would be that we have tons of variations of custard pies that are considered pies, so why would the fact that the filling is a custard discount it from being a pie? Some people say that it's a tart because it has no upper crust. As far as I can tell, there are literally hundreds of pies out there that don't have an upper crust on them. Additionally, tarts seem to be more shallow than pies and only have crust on the bottom. So a close relative of a pie but not quite a pie? I guess in the overall scheme of things, if you're talking about older, more traditional recipes ranging probably anywhere from the original starting back in ancient Greece to anything that has flour, yeast and isnt surrounded by crust on the bottom and the sides, it's going to fall into the cake category. However, if you're talking about a more modern version of cheesecake that is cooked in a pie tin with crust on the bottom and the side that also has no flour or yeast in it, it would be more closely related to a custard pie, which, again, as far as I am concerned, is still a pie regardless that the filling is a custard. To borrow an illustration from another author on another website, sorry I don't remember who or what site, I've read so many of them, he argues that his bourbon custard pie, which is considered a pie, is almost indistinguishable from a cheesecake, with the main difference being the addition of bourbon in the custard pie.